Hi you guys, this is Allison coming back at you from my Space to Craft with another page layout. I had pulled this page kit together for my retreat, and it's one of the pages that I didn't get to. So I had really just pulled papers. I had no design in mind or anything like that. Papers and ephemera. I have this super bright yellow paper, and then this very old cutout that says vacation, which I kind of like. It's just missing the, can't remember what it's called, the dot for the eye. There's a name for it. And then I had pulled these papers, which I like, from a 6x6 pad that was actually a birthday pad that I have recently also used for some cards. And I like that with the yellow, and it'll help limit the amount of yellow that shows, I think. And then I have this softer blue that I like for maybe matting the photos. Then for embellishments, I think I had pulled this, but I think with all this yellow, I'm not going to be able to put more yellow on that. But a few things. This says lazy days, a fun camera, a few things. These are the pictures that I'm working with, and you'll see why I'm moving toward this bright yellow and this pink. It's a picture of my dad and my little girl several years ago on our cruise. And you can see here, we were at the Thirsty Turtle, and this bright yellow, and then he is wearing her little sun hat, being silly, and they have that bright pink. So that pink is a good match, and this yellow is really a good match in these photos. So they've swapped hats in these pictures and just loving on each other. So one page layout, and I think what I'm going to do, I've seen several different picture layouts with big sort of blocks across them, ribbons, even with fishtail. So since these are 6x6, now I could go through and I'm sure I could find some 12 or 8x10 paper or 12x12 paper that I could cut up and use for this, but I think I can make it work. I'm going to cut these pictures down to 4x4, I think, so that I have 3 4x4 pictures that I can sort of alternate down the page. 1, 2, 3, and then each of those could be sort of centralized on a block of this. And if I cut this in half, I can just position the seam behind the photos, and you'll never know that they were actually 6 inches and not 12 inches. So that's my plan for using this. It's a good way to make use of those 6x6s and just hide the fact that they're 6x6s. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut each, that'll be 3-inch strips, and then I'll fishtail them, crop these down, and mat them in this lighter blue, just to tone things down, and then figure out where I can, after that, fit the title and all the ephemera. So I'm going to speed this up now while I go through that process. And I may actually even cut it out and come back to you when I'm done with it. But we'll see how the video goes. So this is where I've sped up to about 3 times speed while I'm cutting all of these photos. I'm doing them all, trying to get them all to 4x4, just because I think that will go better with these 3-inch strips, and I can fit all 3 on my page with a little staggering. And then, interestingly, when I cut these, what I thought was to 3 inches, the they were just slightly more than 6 inches wide. You know, it was just a generous 6 inches. And so they didn't quite exactly line up. So I end up having to go back in and do some trimming, as you can see here. And that caused a few issues when I was trying to line them up, because where that overlap showed. So I ended up having to trim off some of that overlap when I was sticking things down. So here I have the ribbons, and then I'm just going to start laying things out and confirming. And I was undecided if I wanted space between them or if I wanted them up against each other with no margin between them. And I ended up deciding to have them together without the margin. And that just, for me, that just looked more cohesive and was a little less jarring. So here you can see I'm able to fit those in. They're not matted yet. And I'm about to decide that I also would really like to add a border to the page. So my goal here is to have the different, we'll just call them ribbons or banners across different lengths and ending in different places. So here I'm going to end up gutting this piece of blue paper and trimming the yellow paper down to 11.5 by 11.5 so that I have a 1/4 inch all the way around. So just, this is a Cricut trimmer. I am pretty happy with it, though I hear that they may not be making them anymore, or difficult to get the blades. I have an extra blade, so I'll be on this trimmer for a while, and then I'll have to figure out a new one. So I'm gutting this paper, and I'm doing about 1.25 inches or so, just so I have enough to tape down the yellow cardstock onto it. And this piece of paper is from an Echo Park paper pad, and it's just the solids pack that goes with one of their collections. And I liked it just because of that soft blue. I could have gone with a more saturated blue, but then it would have just been bright on bright on bright. So kind of like that I'm able to soften this a little bit. And that actually enables me to use a few softer blue ephemera as well. So these come out just slightly bigger than 4x4, since I'm the photos are 4x4, and so and I'm just eyeballing, as I always do. I just eyeball the width of the mats on those photos. So here I'm just using my tape runner, and then trying to figure out, and I'm going to end up measuring because I want those fishtails to be consistent. So I'm going to find the center. I'm using my 0 center Tim Holtz ruler. So I'm going to find the center of each, and that took me a while to find a pencil that worked. I need to add some lead to my mechanical pencils. And then I'm just going to be consistent so that each banner, each fishtail will be the same. And that will just make it look a little more consistent. If I'm just doing 1 or 2 at the top of a page and they're smaller, it doesn't really matter, and I'll just do a snip and then cut the fishtail. But here I think it would look strange if one was steeper than the other. So I'm just taking a little time to measure and make sure things are going to be consistent. So I'm just making a mark, probably 1.5 inches or 1 inch up, so that I can then be consistent with my scissor cuts. And then I can sort of accordion each of these banners to get them the width that I want. I do end up having to trim them as I'm sticking things down just because of that width difference. But in general, just being able to accordion them, it gave me a lot of flexibility. I didn't have to commit to the length right away. So it let me fuss around with the layout a little bit more. So at this point, I'm almost done with all of my cutting and trimming. And here's where I'm like, okay, do I want space between them or do I want them up against each other? And I think I end up with them up against each other, sort of as a color block in the middle. So here you can see I'm like, uh-oh, these are slightly different lengths because that paper was not exactly 6 inches. Or it was not the same 6 inches as my trimmer, it was 6 inches. And then just trying to figure out. The other thing is I think I can make a little more space by condensing them down. And I didn't want the pictures off the ends of the ribbons. I only wanted them off the top and bottom of the ribbons. So I wanted those ribbons to be long enough for the photos. So I'm almost done. And I will And then I'm talking about, so I'm happy with that, and I'm talking about where I'm going to put my ephemera. So I'll have a cluster up at the top under vacation or near vacation, then one in the middle, and then one in the other, or do journaling down in the bottom left. So I'm going to fussy cut those. You don't have to watch me fussy cut. I cut that out. And then I have some puffy stickers. Then I'm just considering these banners, these extra flags. I don't end up using them. I do cut out all of those blue shells. So this is the sort of long process of deciding what ephemera I'm going to use from the things I had selected. I'm going to use everything except that yellow. I'm not going to use that yellow border at the bottom, but just about everything else I think makes it onto the page from what I had pre-selected from Echo Park, I believe, and put on wax paper. And so the sped up process is going to end here, and I'll come back and just show you where all the ephemera landed. I do not take you through my hemming and hawing process of deciding on ephemera. Okay, so I finished taping everything down. It's a little busy and cray-cray, but you know what? I think I'm okay with it. I usually do really more sparse pages, and so this is an exercise for me in making a busy page. So I used that vacation cutout that I had. I fussy cut those shells, and even though they're from a little bit different paper pack, I still thought that they worked. And then I had this set of puffy stickers. I made a good run at those puffy stickers to add in because it brought in the same bright colors. And then I ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4 little clusters, 5 if you include this, which is going to be where I journal. And this was a journaling card, and I just cut it down so that you could still see that paper below it. I like how this turned out, and remember this is just 6x6 paper pad, and so the seam is here, and here, and you never see the seam. So it looks like they were 12-inch strips of paper that I cut down. That's pretty fun. So I used some Echo Park ephemera, some super old Queen and Company ephemera, and then a few little words. This says salty and sweet. This says a day in the sun, lazy days. So I think it came out pretty cute. Make sure I do some close-ups. Thanks, you guys, and come back again for another process layout or cards or haul videos. Come back to the channel. Please like and subscribe and check out what else I have coming up.